Soundhackers has been going for over 2 years, and we've met in different venues. Right now, everyone is in a place called Gamma Space, which is kind of a video game co-working place, and they've been really accommodating with our meetups, and they've got like a little sound system and projector, and so it's really convenient. Our partner organization is called New Adventures in Sound Art, and they're actually in the middle of setting up a new gallery space in Northern Ontario. So it's quite far from Toronto. It's about 3.5 hours drive, and we actually recently did a field recording workshop there in the fall, and then we're going to be doing more stuff up there as we go. Maybe I can just do a round table and show you guys who's here. Maybe we could get some. So that's Martin, who's about to present.
Actually, I'm thinking maybe it's best if I don't present first, because otherwise we have to change around the video stuff.
Oh.
And the sound.
Okay, so we'll do.
Maybe
yeah.
First,
It's okay.
Your name is?
Martin, again.
Yes, another Martin.
I have done nothing with sound except letting my 80s computer beep sometimes, even in sound heights that I couldn't even listen to anymore, but it was pretending to do a sound. That was basically it, but I'm curious and I do a lot of stuff with graphics, and recently developed, or I'm in the process of developing, a graphical programming language. And a musician I know said, like, how cool would it be if the thing would make sounds whenever one of the elements crosses another element or something like that. And so I thought, like, well, there's the sound meetup, I should have a look what they do.
Okay.
And I'm into Rust, by the way.
Rust programming language?
Yes,
the Rust programming
for sadomasochists.
No,
I don't want to start a language war.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned. No, I'm not into Rust. Sorry. I only do Java.
Hi. My name is Andre, and I study masters in digital media, and now I'm learning to play a couple of instruments: guitar, harmonica, and also interested in what can I do with that and my programming skills. So yeah.
Sorry, what was the masters in?
Digital media.
Okay, cool. So Toronto, can you hear us?
Oh, loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay, great. So our first presenter is Verónica Mota. Have I said your name correctly?
It's correct, yeah.
Okay. And you're originally from Mexico, right?
I was born in Mexico City, yes.
So please tell us about your work, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation. Well, as you mentioned, I was born in Mexico City, and there, as you can see there, that's my background, and hope that you can read it. I did studies in philosophy in Mexico City. After that, I didn't want to become a proper intellectual, because I wanted to travel around the world, not only be reading books and writing about things. So I moved out of Mexico, and I arrived to Berlin in 2001, I think. And I started a long journey. Here, after being a philosophy student, I arrived here with a lot in the head. But here I have to start a new journey. I have to change completely my path. And things started to change in my life since I became a journalist, because someone invited me to produce radio. And in this radio station, I learned to edit audio, to do interviews, to edit. And there for fun, I started making with all the recordings that I did, from the interviews, from the Atmos and demonstrations, I started doing some collages for fun. And then someone from the radio station found one of my archives, my folders, and accidentally played something, and this person pointed out that I was a sound artist. At that time I didn't know what that meant. You know, I was with a philosophy background, so anyway, this person suggested to me to send my work to a radio station in Vienna, which I did, and they selected my work. And then I create my first MySpace at that time with a couple of tracks that I did for fun. It was really a hobby. And then an Australian, a curator in Berlin, booked me for playing live. At that time, really, I wasn't not into arts properly. I was not, it all just happened in my life. I was becoming recognized by people for the stuff that I did. And then I started at the beginning using Sampleton. I didn't even have a Macintosh at that time. And yeah, I discovered Reason, I discovered Logic, I discovered Ableton Live. Then I moved to analog synthesis. My instrument now, my favorite instrument is synthesizers, MS-20, DOCFA. I have a couple others. So yeah, I became sound artist. Now I have a very long experience with it. I became quite a solid sound artist in Berlin, even though that I didn't do university studies in art. Now I'm quite recognized by it. And in my journey, by the way, I forgot to mention, I studied 3 years video montage, and my specialization was a sound designer. Then I became a musician. Then I started doing performance art. Then I create this non-profit arts platform that now is very solid. It is called Urban Arts Berlin. Now I organize I run my own label. I curate events related to music and sound art. Yeah, and I'm also now giving even workshops how to produce music. So everything is quite round at the moment, but I remember when I moved to Berlin, it was, I never thought about me becoming a sound artist, to tell you the truth. Now I am a sound artist, and I'm very happy to be, because for me sound changed my life radically, and I'm very happy. By the way, a personal memory, also how I started making some collages, was when my grandmother in Mexico City, she got blind because of diabetes, and she was dying, and I wanted to send her a present. And what I did was my first sound collage, and she loved it. I sent her a tape, and I record, Berlin, the snow, Alexanderplatz, the Turkish market, and she loved that tape. So since that time, I started seeing the world through sound, thinking about my grandmother. I think that was, for me, it's a personal experience, but I think that was, I think it was a gift from my grandmother. So, yeah. Will we move a little bit more? Sound art production. I work with, as I say, with a lot of synthesizers, and mostly an MS-20. I do music concrete techniques, which I love. I love recording stuff in my kitchen. Whatever creates that sound, for me, is a very interesting source for music. Field recordings, of course. Sampling, I love sampling. I love using text, because of course there you can see my philosophy studies background. For me, text in the compositions are also very important. So I use voiceovers, where I express what I think about the world, my political positions, my beliefs, poetry, philosophy. So I mix sound with text, with conceptual thinking. The sound direction of the stuff that I do. I do many different kind of things. I am very open. I don't do techno, I don't do reggae, I don't do dub. but I do things like, you know, abstract synth sounds, song collages. That was the first thing that I started doing. I do filmic soundscapes, of course, because I am a film editor. So for me, how I see sound is also from the cinematic perspective. When I do a track, I visualize things through the track as if I was doing sound design. I work a lot with dream territories. Dreams are for me very interesting because in the subconscious is where things happen that are surrealistic, that are the impossible happens in dreams. I love that. So I express that in my compositions. I do dark tales as well. I do what is called alchemical sound. That means like I use sound as a way to transform society and to transform individuals. So that's why I call it alchemical sound. I do ritualistic music. Here in Berlin, I started getting involved with people that have a Buddhist background or that are interested in Africa, tribal music. Also, me as a Mexican, I started the research in shamanism. So I'm very interested in the ritualistic aspect of music. I have my political narrative, and I also do industrial noise. I can rock very loud if I want. Especially with synthesizers, no? Yeah, music influences, I can make a huge list. This was just a little one. I mean, I have Delia Derbyshire, that's for me, you know, a heroine. I have Annette Gilles, that's from France. Also, David Lynch, for me, David Lynch, he inspired me a lot as a filmmaker that for him, sound design was very important. So he inspired me a lot in that level. Yanis Xenakis as Greek, from Greece. John Murphy from SPK, this is from people that come from the punk scene. This is this Australian guy, very important for me. We used to do music together. He died 2 years ago, and that was a very strong influence in my life as a musician. Robin Gristle, Peter Christopherson, that's the member from Coil. Coil is a gay music project that transformed my life completely because these people produce music from an androgynous perspective. That means, and that's what I do also, which is mixing the female brain with the masculine brain and creating compositions that are not exclusive of gender, but inclusive. In this band, for instance, Coil was an important influence. Hermann Kopf, this is a composer that did compositions for Your Burterei films, which is a German guy that did excellent trashy gore films from Germany. I recommend you to check that guy out. And those are just some, I'm just dropping some names. Any questions? Is everything clear? Fine? Good. Then we move on. Collaborative work. I have worked with dancers. I work quite often with filmmakers. For instance, last week I got an invitation for making sound design for a Mexican filmmaker who is planning to make a film. Before that, I did some tracks for a underground filmmaker from Greece, from Athens. So it doesn't happen that often, but it's part of my work that sometimes I get people asking me for either music, sound design. I do it. I love doing it. I also collaborate with artists in performance art terrain. I do performance art myself, but sometimes I do the sound for people that do performance art. And music, of course, I have worked with different people. At the moment, these are some projects that some of them I'm not working anymore, others I'm still active. For instance, Cubop is the first project that I have, that from 2004. The Specta Negra is a project that began in 2012. The Sublime, this is a project that I had with an Australian. The Abject, it was a performance art project, duo project. I had another project with a woman from Britain and from the UK, the Devil and Miss Jones. And now I have a new fresh project since last year, which is very interesting. It is called the Ready Orchestra. And we are 35 women improvising. And you can imagine how massive that is. 35 human beings with violins, cellos, flutes, synth, electronics. It's quite interesting. It's very challenging for me because me as a sound artist, since I come from editing, from precision, from when you are doing sound design, you have to be very precise. You have to write down the seconds of, So jumping to a project that is with 35 human beings doing improvisation, for me that I come from a very very structured kind of way to produce music, to do sound art. For me, it's very challenging for me because I'm not used to improvise. I'm more used to be very structured, and this project is absolutely the opposite. It's very interesting in that sense because it's challenging for me to be, especially not only with one or two, it's like 35 people is interesting, it's challenging. Now, I would like to play to you some tracks, so to get an idea in music-wise, song-wise, what I do. Let's hope that everything works fine. So I'm gonna play to you this track, which is an anthem to David Lynch. The particular importance of this track is just to give you an idea. This was the first song collage I ever did, when I didn't know that it was a song collage. So it's a very old work that is going to be released now, as you see, in Japan. I have my official label are Japanese, and a label from it's called Luz Bessel. They found me through internet, and they are releasing all the music that I have produced in the last decade, because they really like what I do, which for me is it was a total surprise to be asked by Japan. I never expected that Japan will appreciate a lot my music. So they are releasing this. This is now being printed in tape format, and I'm just gonna play you this collage. Could you listen to it? Thank you. So the particular thing about this piece that I find for me interesting is that at that time I didn't have any background in sound art, composition, and you can listen that for me I'm fascinated how complex the piece is, even though that I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it. And for me, years later, I listened to it and I thought, wow, it's very complex, it's a lot going on. And for me, you have to listen to it as if it was a film. You have to create the images. And for me, that track was a track where I realized, I think this is the stuff that I love. This is because for me, it's very easy to do parts like pieces like this. Okay. I want to present to you another. This one is with visuals. This is a collaborative project with John Evans from Australia, from Sydney. We present this in Berlin. I don't know if you know this platform. They don't do that much at the moment, but they used to be very active in the terrain of sound art in Berlin. They are called Salon Bruit. And they used to organize concerts in a little cinema here in Prenzlauer Berg. And we present this. This is just an extract of it is called Inferno. The original film is from this guy Giuseppe Di Ligioro, Italian, who did in 1911 a film about Dante Alighieri, La Divina, the Divine Comedy of Dante Alighieri, and he made a film at that time, and he just portrayed the Inferno. And this is a film, it's an extract of that film, very old film, and we play the film and the music live. And this is a track that I very, very much love because it's quite, well, let's play it.
Can you guys see the video in Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play it. So how are we with time?
We're okay. Yeah, we're doing well.
So I will say either I play a last track or if someone has questions, you tell me.
I actually have a couple of questions. Okay, so first question was, are those films still under copyright, or are they now like sort of public domain? Is the copyright elapsed?
In the case of film, luckily you can use footage without copyright because the films are so old that you don't have a problem.
Yeah, okay.
So we didn't have the problem. We just found it was difficult to get access to the film because it's a very old film.
So where did you get access to it?
I think through Pirate Bay.
Oh, really? Okay, that's funny.
But if you want to have it, I think I have it somewhere.
Okay,
I can give it to you. It's
cool.
an
Very
excellent
cool
film.
footage, actually. Really,
It's
yeah, it looks
very-
really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, so basically, so that scene clearly was just one film, right?
Yes.
Did you also do like sort of cuts where you mix together different types of films?
I do that as well. I do also video audio collages. I don't do it that anymore that often, but yes, I also do like used to do with Final Cut. I remember as a film editor, political sound audio collages. That means like getting footage from different films, choosing things, putting them up,
It's only
coloring.
films, though. You don't use like, so for example, political speeches by.
Yes, I do.
Ah, okay.
For instance, I have once this testimony of an American soldier that was in Iraq, and he speaks what was really going on there from his experience as a military. And I use that as a voiceover to a track which is basically an anti-war track. I used also recently a track with Donald Trump, another one anti-Donald Trump with William Burroughs. So yes, I use political speeches as well, philosophy as well, people, in discussions.
Which kind of philosophers, if you don't mind me asking?
For instance, this album, I have a couple of voiceovers there. And this one, I'm not gonna play it but we have Judith Butler, we have Noam Chomsky, we have also Trump. So what I do is...
So Judith Butler, if I remember correctly, is a figure from the feminist movement.
Right.
Chomsky, I think.
Yes,
That's
right. In the philosophy
Pretty
terms,
sure.
yes.
Okay, and then the last question that I had was regarding, so I could detect, like, I guess the second one that you played was a later work, right? Because in the first one, it was more sort of the textures and the sort of, well, it was much more about collage, and you can really feel that there's like a sort of harmonic, and the song feels like it's going somewhere, and I think it's really cool that it sort of fits with the video, which is actually really quite dramatic, actually, right? Like, and so I wanted to ask you, is like, how, like, do you approach this from you said you approach it kind of from the film point of view, and so, like, my understanding of film, which I don't know that much, is that they also try to sort of structure it in sort of thirds, there's like, it's kind of like theater in that sense, but the general idea is that you're trying to progress and increase the drama until the climax. Is that sort of your approach as well?
I don't do it that consciously, but when you're, in my case, when I was learning film montage, you have to tell a story. There has to be a narrative.
Yeah.
So you have to tell a story, and you have to decide which is going to be the structure of your story. If you are going to be telling a story that is flat, or it's a story that gets introduction, and then the high point. So I think like that. I don't do it that consciously, but I did that as a film editor. That for me, I am telling a story. Like in theater, as you say it, I agree. I decide, I move always the acts in between the high point Not that consciously anymore, but that was an important influence from film editing.
Is there any questions in Toronto?
Nothing that comes to mind, but I was quite fascinated by the sounds that, especially in that the last thing, very fitting with the visuals, the very dark sounding.
Yeah, it's true. It's something that, in my case, influenced me a lot. I love horror movies. I like dark stuff, and you can see that. I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious. I like I like Inferno, for instance. No? Dante Alighieri is.
I was wondering if you could tell us about, so you got into the sound art when you came to Berlin?
Yes, correct.
So what was it sounded like there was like a lot of stuff going on, and you kind of found your way into different collectives and that sort of thing. How has it changed? Or are you still always meeting new groups and people? I was wondering, because in Toronto, there's a lot of like avant-garde organizations and stuff, but I don't think to any extent like what happens here. There's also, it costs a lot of money in Toronto, so all the buildings are very well like guarded for, and maybe when you moved here, could you speak about like what was happening with the buildings? And
I mean, when I moved here, I still have the amazing luck to see Berlin, because now I see Berlin is changing a lot. I mean, it's changing a lot, getting more and more expensive. When I arrived here, we have a lot of squats, for instance. I used to live in one myself. Berlin has a strong history of resistance. It's a very liberal city, not all the neighborhoods, but certainly the neighborhood where I live, which is Kreuzberg. I also live in free design. I mean, I have been always, I am a community-based person. I was in Mexico already, and here I still was a very community-oriented person, meaning I move always with collectives, with people that are doing something, that are organizing something, that are solidarity-based, that are anti-capitalist, that is not about making money, it's about making something together. So I always move in this kind of circles that are not commercial, that are actually anti-commercial. And that used to be very strong in Berlin when I arrived. Now I mean, 16, 17 years later, me as a curator that I run Urban Arts Berlin since 2012, I have seen how, when I started putting together concerts, I remember the venues telling me, do it for free. Do it, bring your sound system, do whatever you want. For free. Today, for me, what is becoming hard is that everyone wants money. They want now, people are asking you for 400 euros rent for using a space for concerts. Plus, that's also something new since this year that I noticed. They want a guarantee that you are going to bring at least 200 people. That's very new. For me, it tells me a lot in which direction Berlin is changing.
It's the pay to play like you get in London, it's awful. Like,
yeah, no, London, impossible, and it's very rich oriented. I don't know what will be your opinion, guys, but I mean, for me, I have seen this how is radically, slowly changing. It's gonna take a while still, but it's changing.
Is there any other questions for Veronica?
Yeah, sure, I have one. You mentioned one of your approaches to music was androgynous music.
Yes, correct.
Can you explain how sun sounds a bit more masculine or feminine?
That might sound a little bit strange, but I believe that this is the new generations, right? This is something that I learned in Berlin, because as I say, Berlin is a very liberal, progressive city. And here in Berlin, I got involved with collectives, people, getting to know different kind of people. And then I got to know the queer scene. So, you know, it's all these people that are questioning the gender binary, male, female. Also now we have this very strong movement about transsexual people and the meaning of sexuality, the meaning of homosexuality, how complex now the things have gotten, and that's something that I learned here in Berlin. And hanging out with all these people, I learned that there is a new kind of gender. And the ideal gender is actually a very old gender from the ancient human beings, which is the androgynous gender, which is no division between male and female, but the collaboration between both of them that creates a new gender by itself. So in terms of music, as I say, this band, Coil, I like them very much because they use really this, they mix like some kind of obscure, strong male textures with a feminine touch because they are gay. And the pieces, the result of it in music, is for me that I can see excellent compositions because they are challenging somehow our understanding of gender and in throat zone, and I believe that's possible. I do it myself. For instance, in the case of when I do noise, in the noise scene, it's not that common to see a woman making noise, and certainly not a person of color Mexican in Europe. That's even less. I mean, there's less women than that. I mean, there are white women, not that many women, white women, and people of color, even, you know. So for me, it's like I'm challenging the perception, the concept that people have about Mexican women. They wouldn't expect them in a Mexican, you know. And I like that, to break this concept. So yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.